Trapping plays a very important role in modern-day wildlife management. Professional wildlife biologists monitor fur-bearer populations to maintain a healthy and sustainable harvest of this important, renewable natural resource. Trapping provides recreation and income for licensed trappers across this country. The Fur Shed Series, brought to you by Who's Your Trapper Outdoors. Who's Your Trapper Supply, Leatherwood Creek Trapping Scents, HTS Productions, Who's Your Trapper Deer Scents, and Leatherwood Wildlife Art.
Alright, working through some muskrats here. These have been in the freezer. Normally we just put our fur up towards the end of the season, kind of work through it, skin stuff, freeze it, and then flesh it and stretch and dry it. So these muskrats, it's kind of nice to go out and catch some. We don't have a whole lot of them anymore. Ponds, lakes, and marshes seem to still have them, but as far as the farm ditches, we just don't have them. They've been on a pretty good decline for a number of years actually in farm ditches. Just don't have them like we used to. So anyways, working through these muskrats, there's not a whole lot to flesh them. The main thing is you want to get all just the fat and the meat clubs off of them. The red membrane stays on. So put the skin on, and let me grab the camera real quick. So you can see there's clubs of meat up around the ears, kind of in the shoulder area, and then some down on the bottom. This is the back of a muskrat. And then the belly side normally has a little bit more fat. More up on the top, more in the shoulder, lower shoulder area, and then down on the belly side. Some rats have more fat than others. The main thing on these muskrats that I see people make a mistake, and it's a little harder to see on this one, but this red membrane actually stays on. So if you remove that, you're actually exposing hair follicles and you're working way too hard. So that probably goes at least a slight damage if you do that. So no sense in working that hard, and no sense in getting a skin that gets docked. So anyways, that's what we're doing there on the muskrats. So you can see I'm not spending a lot of time on these. Just getting that bulky stuff off. And you can probably see I'm sweating. It got a little bit warm in here. I'm going to turn the heat down. Normally muskrats, it's better to dry them at in the 50s and not a whole lot warmer. It makes a softer skin. They're not so boardy feeling. And I don't turn the skin, I just turn the board over. This is an old fox board from years ago, back when we still had foxes. I mean, this board is literally 40 years old. Scraped a lot of muskrats, and just put the skin on there. I normally put the skin on the same way that you would on the stretcher, so it's symmetrical. Both ears, eyes, and both on the same side of the stretcher, and on the belly side, 2 front legs. I guess on fleshing it really is not that big of a deal. To me it just makes more sense to do it that way. Certainly when you put it on the stretcher, that's very important. Continue to work through these. Turn the skin so you're doing just the edges. There's not much there, but you couldn't, it was on the edge of here, so that's what we're fleshing right now. Once we turn the skin, and that's it. Here's a little one. Important that your muskrats, for the most part, be dry. Ideally, these should be fully dry. It's better to dry them when they're still on carcass with a fan on them. Wrap them in newspaper when you first catch them, and then that'll help dry them out quite a bit. And then when you get to your first shed, put them up on, we use milk crates, and then get fans around them, and that'll dry them out the rest of the way. If they're a little damp, You can get by with stretching them. But overall, I really don't recommend stretching muskrats that are damp or wet. Certainly not wet. If you got warm, humid weather and you're not running a lot of heat, make sure you got a fan going. That warm, humid weather can actually make stuff look really stale looking when it's drying. So make sure you've got a fan going to help get rid of that real stagnant, stale air. If you need to, and you got one, you could always put a dehumidifier in there too. But like I said, muskrats are better to dry at around 50-55 degrees. So get some stretchers, and we'll get this on the stretcher. All right, you can use wooden stretchers. I always use wire on muskrats. Make sure they're clean. Make sure there's no rust on them. That's very important. And I think rats look real nice on wire actually, and they're certainly faster than doing wood. If the nose wants to go over the end of the skin, just take a nail and go through like that, and that'll hold that nose on there. If you don't put that nose on there, you're actually losing some size. If they're just measuring muskrats, they're going to measure from here to the highest side. So it's always a good idea when you get them on the skin, give them a tug like that on the sides, pull those sides down, and then make sure that nose is up here. And if that nose pulls over the edge, it's clear down to here, so you're losing a half an inch to an inch. So it's important to have that thing stretched properly. If you look at this muskrat real close, right here, I don't know if you can see that or not, there's two scars right here. A fur grader probably actually is going to call that a slight damage, very possibly, even though they're not all the way through. So sometimes people say, well, there weren't any holes in my skins. Well, there doesn't necessarily have to be a hole in there, because there'll be a scar there that will open, possibly open during the tanning process. And that's always the concern. Now, we were in a hurry when I was skinning these rats, and I think it was late at night, and we got home late. And so if you skin them, take a little more time skinning them around the mouth and whiskers. You don't have to put a nail in there. The rat will hold just fine on the stretcher. But if you get in a little hurry and you got to nail them, that's fine. Just make sure you just put that nail in there. Pull those sides down. Kind of watch your stretchers. You know, when stretchers are used for several years, they'll kind of start getting a little bent up or whatever. So you want to try to get your shape back a little bit. And that one I think might stay on there. I'm not sure. We'll see. This one here too, you can see it's got an enlarged eyeball. Some people get all upset about that. It makes no difference at all if you do that. If you're super anal about it, don't do it. But I'm not gonna lose any sleep over it, that's for sure. These are actually used little number 6 size finishing nails. These are some old paneling nails we had around here. They're like a threaded, they don't really have to be threaded at all. Flat down. And sometimes this wants to go up like that. Make sure you get those down, because if you got skin against skin, then those areas right there will actually start to kind of spoil. And you don't want that. Even though that area right there may end up being fine, there's no sense in taking any chances. There's no sense in having that smell around your skin. Anything that smells like it's a little tainted or rotten, it's always kind of a red flag to a buyer. So. Indiana, we have a nice quality muskrat here. Better than actually some of the northern states for sure. Definitely better than a South Dakota muskrat or something like that, even a Michigan muskrat. to get a top lot award on muskrats in Indiana is pretty common. Most people that send some muskrats normally get one, so that's kind of cool. So you got, in the scheme of things, we got a better quality muskrat than we do a lot of things here in Indiana, but in comparison to other states. The present market that we have right now, it's important too to get these on here symmetrical. Two eyes, two ears, flip it over and you got the two legs right here. This is a much smaller muskrat. When this is dry, this will have a real papery feel to it. So it's just not, you know, it doesn't have the fur quality. It's just because it's smaller, younger muskrat. Muskrats typically have 3 litters a year, and the first litter that they have normally has a litter at the end of the summer. So there's, you know, lots of varying sizes of muskrats, and so when you're catching them, you can catch a lot of different sizes. In this present market, with muskrats are not very high in price. You take something like that as a slight to medium damage, not going to be worth much at all. So. But we caught it, went ahead and skinned it, so we'll go ahead and put it up. It does have a value. It's not like it's just a piece of corn. It does have some pretty decent fur, so for being that size of a muskrat, and we caught it late, so. All right, so we got the muskrats hanging up here on the ceiling. Those ones I just stretched, and then there's a few up there that were already up there from previous yesterday, actually, that I put up. So they're going to dry, and then when they're dry, I'll kind of basically, if you feel the ears and the ears feel dry, then they're dry. So. They were in this warmth. Like I said, I'm going to turn the heat down in here and get it down to about 50, 55. I do have a fan going when I'm not in here. I don't have it on right now because you can't hear me. But we'll get those dry probably 3 days, and they're ready to go, maybe 4 at the most. And they'll be ready to take off the stretchers. I just got a handful more to do. We just don't catch many muskrats, like I said. So we trapped a marsh this year, and we only trapped it for 2 days. We had terrible issues with the weather and ice and that kind of thing, and then somebody had been in there prior to us, so we didn't, considering everything, we didn't do too bad. But anyways, we'll let those dry and take them off the stretchers.